This video is brought to you by Mubi, a curated streaming service showing exceptional films from around the globe. Get a whole month free at mubi.com/SpikimaMovies. Under the Skin is a film that speaks with images and sounds. Directed by Jonathan Glazer and starring Scarlett Johansson, it tells a simple story of an alien entity that, while carrying out its mission of seducing men into an alien lair, begins to find fascination in human emotions and derails from her position. Since the film is less concerned with verbal expositions and more with audiovisual symbolism, much of its screen time is dedicated to scenes with little narrative significance, dwelling on inconsequential objects like the ant, the mirror, the passersby, and the van. This in turn causes the film to gloss over key information about the characters and the story, making the journey entirely unclear for the audience. Nonetheless, the film successfully shares its perspective on complex topics like gender, culture, love, and art through its simplified structure, and with its unique sound design and the visuals, manages to unify the diverse topics into a single question of what does it mean to be human? To answer this question, Under the Skin first completely alienates the human world by using visual ingredients like silhouettes, lights, camera movements, and angles. Right from the start, the bike that cuts through the darkness flows like a spaceship traversing the universe, with the beaming lights of the passing vehicles, and later the amusement park, shining like stars. Specifically for this shot, the upper angle of the camera keeps the human details hidden from view and only focuses on the obscurity of the sky. The same obscurity found in the alien spaces, identified by solid white or black, void of life and character. The similarities found between the world Laura comes from and the world we live in make it difficult for the audience to find their position, and ultimately it becomes Laura and her occupancy alone that determine the relatability of a given setting. Accordingly, a sudden cut to a busy street feels just as odd and lonely as the empty landscape. Targeting a single subject from inside a moving van, the scene has an obsessive focus and a liquid-like flow, stripping away the distinctiveness of the pedestrians. Notice how the quick movements of the crowd also feel random and purposeless. This is because the film is omitting the beginning and the end of their actions, cutting short before the audience can process the motivation behind each movement. Combined with this curious atmosphere are the indistinct facial expressions of the subjects, blurred by the camera that only highlights the general motion, and which further mystifies their behaviors. At other times, the faces of the passersby are neglected altogether by keeping the shots below shoulder height. Now, this film actually utilized hidden one-cams to shoot real people without their knowledge for maximum authenticity. It's therefore likely that shots like this emerge out of convenience before artistic intentions, but regardless, it's an effective technique that dehumanizes the people in the mall while psychologically synchronizing the audience with Laura with the help of the behind-the-head shot, which switches the experience of the audience from watching an alien being to becoming an alien themselves. In this sense, the camera does much more than objectively capturing the world by alluding to its strangeness, sometimes by highlighting the physical quality of everyday objects before their accustomed image, and at other times by visually separating Laura and her potential subjects. Laura and the men she talks to are indeed always shot separately or not shown at all, so the audience can only hear them in their thick Scottish accent.
And go straight through a roundabout, then take a left, so it's
a very intentional choice to put the audience in Laura's shoes. It's an esoteric accent for many to begin with, but since most men are unaware of the filming process, their lines are often organic and therefore chaotic, making them tougher to comprehend.
You catch your death of cold if you've not got a jacket or a hat or something on.
This world is full of such chaos, ranging from conversations, radio broadcasts, and even comedy that stirs the audience with accents, mumbles, volume, and
After the shopping centre.
edit. It's no accident, therefore, that the only person who Laura lets go alive is a man with neurofibromatosis, a man who also happens to talk without an accent. While Laura finds emotional connections through the conversations, and while the film describes this linkage through the man's visible condition, The audience is guided by the intelligibility, followed by a brief shot of Laura in her true form. But even in this exceptional scene where everything feels calm and easy to discern, one thing that continues to be present is the sound. If the visuals of Under the Skin were pushing the audience away from the human world, it's the sound design that pulls them closer to Laura's world. Sounds distinguish the borders of reality. It grounds the listener and defines their surroundings. In this film, realness is only found in Laura's immediate environment. Every noise Laura makes, down to the unbuckling of the belt, is crisp and loud, while the passing van that is outside her bubble is muted and spacey. The camera may give more life to the scene by using a wider angle, but the audio will find its way to cancel that effect, in many cases by keeping the audience inside the van with Laura, muffling and crushing the external sounds. This is why the passing vehicles feel so threatening and intrusive, because they're constructed to obscure the human world, reflecting Laura's psychology, delivering her experience straight to the viewers. Played throughout the film as an undercurrent is Mika Levy's incredible score. It features a heavily reverberated snare and assertive strings that regularly overlap with the diegetic sounds, blending into the film and becoming a part of Laura's circle. It can resemble a heartbeat, a human breathing, or, as Mika herself states, signal Laura's increasing hunger. It's a steady movement that feels both calm and aggressive, peaceful and nerve-wracking. It illustrates the coexistence and the subsequent resemblance of humans and aliens, where Laura seems more human than the humans themselves, and the score more intimate than the voices. As everything begins to meld with one another, we also notice that there is an interesting juxtaposition between noises and silence. The sound of nothing following the sound of everything. The quietness broken by the loudness, conditioning the audience to associate the van with protection, a shell to keep the intrusive frequencies away, as a place of peaceful observation and contemplation. By mixing the sounds with a quick succession of fade-ins and fade-outs, and by cutting the passing dialogue before we can discern its context, the film transforms our language into a disturbance. The pinnacle of this chapter comes in a form of absolute overstimulation, where chatters, music, flashing lights, and spontaneous movements of both the camera and the people bombard the senses in the most uncomfortable way possible. Earth is no longer our home. But then where exactly does the push become a pull, an alien, a human, at a place of desynchronization? There's an infamous scene of a crying baby that deliberately dissociates the audience from Laura, where the camera work, editing, and sound design speak not for her experience, but for the terror of her inhumanness. The clashing waves that get louder by the minute contrast with the brutally silent alien. The stillness of the dead's conflicts with the futile floundering of the living. There is no empathy in the eyes of the camera, no mercy in the melody. The baby is engulfed both visually and auditorily by the darkness of the night and the loudness of the waves. This is the scene that separates the audience from the alien, functioning as an unforgettable anchor point for the change that will happen down the road. A reminder of the strong will to live, interrupted by the world that redirects the audience and Laura to their assignment. Fortunately, the anchoring is brief, and for Laura, it quickly becomes a turning point where she begins to travel against the wind. And comes my favorite visual symbol from Under the Skin. Laura on the wrong side of the road. It's a visual representation of her change of mind, her transformation. It's a sign that she will now act differently, against her alien nature. If not by herself, then at least with the help of the humans around her. Earth is home once again. What does it mean to be human? Laura's own wish to answer this question comes in the form of self-observation in front of a mirror. It first appears on screen as a tool for deception, second time as a question for the audience of what Laura is, and the rest for Laura herself to examine the skin that encases her soul and wonder if it could be a part of what defines her inner self. But what are mirrors but a reflection of the reality before them? They could never be the authentic self, and maybe the skin is the same as a device that lets others see you, a fake reflection. But can skin really be separated from what it holds within? Does the interior determine the covering, or could it be the one affecting the inside? Under the Skin argues for the latter, that your skin is more than a facade, and that it will always change the content it holds. This extends to the clothing, which Laura takes from the previous alien at the start of the film. It contains the information of what this being has seen, heard, and felt, the identity of a female human. After all, could the aliens have spent time on this land without their human skin? Isn't her identity then meaningless without the skin she wears? The two opposing ideas coincide in this film, like how Laura does with this world. In this sense, perhaps her burning end is not a tragedy, but a fitting destination for a life form that parallels the human landscape. Her reflection can now be found in the world we see through the screen, giving us an opportunity to re-examine the things we know all too well. As a falling snow carefully landing on the lens of the camera, breaking the fourth wall, Laura announces herself as yet another perspective, another set of eyes that challenges us to discover the unfamiliar in the familiar. A film. Hello everyone, thank you so much for watching my video. If you like Under the Skin and want to discover more films with beautiful visual storytelling, I urge you to check out Mubi, the sponsor for today's video. Mubi is an online curated cinema streaming service that premieres a new hand-picked film every day. One thing I love about Mubi is that on top of having a library of feature-length films, they also have an entire series of short films that you can watch. For instance, in many different countries, you can check out Chris Marker's legendary sci-fi short La Jetée, as well as the infamous Thai filmmaker Apichatpong's 2018 short Blue, both of which make exceptional use of audiovisual techniques to tell their stories. You can check out more films like these and discover new films you haven't seen before on Mubi. And in fact, right now, you can get an extended 30-day free trial if you sign up using my link at mubi.com/SpikimaMovies. That's mubi.com/SpikimaMovies. So, see you there, and thanks for watching.